I welcome everyone to this special workshop looking at how to address the idea of a virtual conference. I'd like to go around and ask everyone just to say your name and your position, and then we will begin with the Devar Torah, and I will turn it over to our very capable convention team to lead the way. So I will call you the way you are on mine. First, we have Linda. If you want to.
Oh, yes. Good evening. I'm from the Metro North region. I am the region president.
Okay.
Okay, Lori.
Lori Snow, Mid-Atlantic Region President.
Anise.
Anise Parnes, Brooklyn, Queens, Long Island region, and I'm the region president.
And Jody.
Jody Jacqueline, conference chair from Intercontinental.
Okay, Esther.
Esther Lichtenstein, North Atlantic Region President.
Okay, Susan Steinberg.
Southern Region Vice President Conferences.
Renee.
Renee Ravitch, I was Vice Chair of Logistics for Convention and also Consulting Services Chair, which means you need to contact me for a consultant for conference.
Thank you for getting that little plug in. Marilyn.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Berkowitz and the other half of Renee's co-logistics chair for convention and currently Women's League parliamentarian.
Fran.
I'm Fran Hildebrandt, Central Great Lakes Region President, and my conference chair, Carolyn Marks, hopes to join us in a few minutes.
Great, thanks, Fran. Rusty.
Rusty Zackheim, International Northeast Region, co-chair of conference with Linda Steinhorn.
Oh, you were frozen, Rusty, but I see you. Good to hear you. Wendy.
I'm checking. Okay, I'm not muted. I'm Wendy Glasser, President of North by Northwest Region.
Hello, everybody.
And my conference coordinator is on. That's Colleen Paul. She's muted and not on screen, and she did put in the chat introducing herself. And she doesn't have a camera or a microphone, but she's listening, and she's very happy to be here.
Well, glad to see you here, Wendy, and welcome, Colleen. Please use the chat for any thing that you want to ask or contribute. Susan?
Sandy, oh, sorry. Sandy, I have my conference chair, also VP here too, Carol Madvig. I'm Gina Rezvanpur.
Okay. All right, Gina, right now, I know you just got on. I'm so glad you did. We're going around and letting everyone introduce themselves. I'll be with you very shortly. Susan Markowitz.
I'm the Middle Atlantic Region Vice President for Community Awareness, and I'm going to be the co-chair for Spring Conference.
Great. Teresa? Teresa, you are muted. Teresa, could you unmute yourself? There you go.
I must have hit it twice by accident, I'm sorry. I'm Teresa Samtur, I'm the president of the Garden State Region. Sheila Kaufman is going to be one of my co-chairs, but she can't be on the call today. So I'm going to be learning a lot, and I'm going to need more co-chairs, but right now she's my start. So
great, great. Cathy, if you unmute yourself and introduce yourself.
Sure, I'm Cathy Swerdlow, Florida Region President.
Thanks. And Carol?
Carol Madvig, Pacific Southwest Region, Conference Vice President.
Eileen?
Hi, Eileen Rubin. I was Program Vice Chair for Convention 2020.
Okay. Linda?
Hi, I'm Linda Steinhorn, the other, and I'm from past president of the International Northeast Region, and I am conference co-chair along with Rusty.
Great. Cindy?
Hi, I'm Cindy Ginsburg, Intercontinental Region President.
Okay. Joan?
Hi, I'm Joan Lowenstein, International Northeast President.
Jen?
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wood. I'm the Southern Region President.
Gina?
Gina Rezvanpur, Pacific Southwest Region.
Terrific. There's a phone number, if that person could introduce herself.
What's the number? Is that me?
That's you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm Etta Epstein. I'm immediate past president of Beth Torah Synagogue, and I will be the chairperson for our upcoming conference for 2021.
And for which
Florida region, by the way.
Florida. Thank you so much. And Carol?
Hi, I'm Carol Marks, and I am the Spring Conference Chair for the Central Great Lakes region.
Terrific. I skipped over someone that we all know, Debbi Goldich. Debbi, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. So I am the convention chair. Actually, I was convention chair, and I had the most wonderful opportunity to work with an amazing team. And they're on tonight to talk to you about how to integrate Zoom into your conference if you choose to have a virtual conference. I want to welcome everybody, and as I can see, we represent, I think, 12 out of the 13 regions, which is very good. I'm glad that all of the conference chairs are on, because instead of having your presidents share the information, this way you can ask the questions and learn firsthand what you want to learn about. Sandy?
And I'd like to have the person who just joined us, because we have perfect attendance. We are wonderful regional presidents. Cathy, if you introduce yourself.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Cathy Litofsky from Seaboard region.
Thank you, Cathy. I'd like to call on Cindy Ginsburg, who is going to give a Devar Torah for this evening, as my computer acts up.
Okay, thank you very much. One of the lessons of this holiday of Sukkot is that it encompasses the totality of our existence. Dwelling in the sukkah is the only mitzvah that involves the entire person. Even one's clothing and boots are invited into the sukkah. Well, you might ask, what about immersion in the mikveh? Although the water of the mikveh envelops the entire person, we do not immerse ourselves while clothed, and the immersion is of short duration. So we certainly don't dwell in the mikveh. There's another all-embracing feature to the sukkah. The Talmud tells us that all of Israel are fit to sit in one sukkah. Indeed, the first sukkah was formed by the clouds of glory that surrounded and protected the Jewish people as they wandered through the desert for 40 years. This means that if we had one large enough sukkah to contain all of the Jewish people, at least theoretically, there would be no impediment for their fulfillment to the mitzvah to dwell in the sukkah. This idea is unparalleled. There is no other mitzvah like it. The sukkah is the ultimate all-encompassing mitzvah. Thank you.
Thank you so much
Yasher
for those
Koach.
words.
Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach.
Beautiful.
Yasher Koach. Debbi, as the 2020 convention chair, I will let you start this.
Okay. So this meeting came about because the last meeting of the region presidents, a very interesting question was asked. We discussed whether or not you would be having an in-person spring conference or a virtual one. And most of you, almost all of you, said that you were leading towards a virtual convention. The interesting question that was asked was, can you use your region allocations to cover the cost of Zoom? And I told you that I would go to the finance committee and find out. Last week, we held a special finance committee meeting, and it was voted upon that you may use your region allocation to pay for production costs, whether it's Zoom or some other production, you know, Blue Jeans, Microsoft, Windows, Zoom. Zoom is one form of technology. It's the one we're most familiar with, but there are other ways. And so the Finance Committee of Women's League has approved you all using your region allocations. And as I told you last week, if you have used your money in a good way with good judgment and you run out of money, you are free to speak to the region allocations chair, who is Lynn Landsberg, and ask for more money. So I want you to understand that going forward. With that said, that doesn't mean that I'm hoping that you'll hire Flow Video that we used for convention and spend $10,000 on your spring conference. We hope that you'll use good judgment and try to start at a very low price. When we left last week, I suggested to all of you that you look within your region to try to find someone who might be capable for a much lower price. And I thought about that all week, and I thought that there are people in your own synagogues who are managing the Zoom and managing production for different programs, for high holiday services, and for other events. And so that would be a good place for all of you to start, to look for someone who might be able to manage your conference at a less expensive price. I also suggested that you look within your region to find somebody's young adult child, male or female, who might be a college student or post-college, where they might have those skills and be able to do that for a much less expensive price. I don't know if anyone had any luck in the last week, 10 days since we've met, but I would love to hear you share that if you were able to find someone. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is for Eileen and Renee and Marilyn to share with you a little bit about how we made the decision, and going forward, you know, how you can use their skills to manage your in-person spring conference if you choose to do it virtually. So I think the best way to do this, maybe, Sandy, is just question and answer, or to give the three of them an opportunity to talk for 2 minutes and then to do questions and answers. Okay, so I'd like to start with Eileen, who was program vice chair, and maybe we should do this. Maybe Eileen should speak, and then you can ask her questions, and then we'll move on to Renee and Marilyn. How does that sound, Sandy? Okay?
That sounds good. And just so everyone knows, Marilyn and Eileen, as the team knows, sent attachments, and I did send them to the presidents, asking them to send it to their chairs, so that we can all be talking with the same background information or at our fingertips when needed.
Okay, very good. Eileen, you're on.
Wait, Debbie, if I can just say, I just want to remind you, I have to leave around 5:15.
So you want to go for, well, I'm not going to say, I really didn't expect to say.
No, I just wanted
I thought we were just going to get answers. So I'll say something for a minute, and then you can go. And the reason who went to, were you all at convention?
Yes.
Yeah, you were all there. So that's a good thing. So that means you're already way ahead of us, because we had never been to anything like this, except that, you know, it was like we were blindsided. You know, I'd say we were working on convention for 2.5 years, and all of a sudden, I remember Debbie saying to me one day, maybe it was in March or February, saying, I don't know if we're going to be able to have convention. I said, oh, come on, it'll be finished by then. Well, it wasn't, of course. And, you know, it was a real issue. What we were deciding was, can we do this? Should we do this? Should we have, in other words, we were looking at, there are 3 questions in one of the handouts I sent. Should we have convention at all? Should we do a Zoom? Should we do a virtual, or should we do a hybrid or something? And everything was so up in the air, we really didn't know. So it did take a village to figure it out, but it really took Women of Reform Judaism. And I'd say that was the biggest education that we had. They were planning a convention the same exact time we were in Chicago, and they went virtual, and they invited us to attend their virtual convention that they had on May 1st. And that was incredible. We saw it can be done. And that's really what made us decide. And they spent an hour on the phone with us. We threw all kinds of questions at them. And you'll see, I did send, they're very informal notes, but they're very inclusive, and you'll see. And the biggest thing I think we learned from that was you have to prepare in a different way. You have to be really, really prepared. You have to know every minute. It has to be planned. You have to go over it, and you have to have backups and backups. And I'd say that I would divide into program. I don't know if you usually do this or not. I can't remember already. You know, region conferences, but I would set it up like the structure we had, where you have a program and you have separate logistics. And the other thing that I think is very important, I'm a firm believer in you don't translate one to the other. You don't try to make the virtual what was. You start from the ground up, and you build it, and you think outside the box. And all of a sudden, you start to plan things and go, wow, I can have somebody from Europe speaking. I can bring in Diana Friedgut. I can bring in Debbi for free. You know, you can do things that are outrageous. And I'm thinking in terms of I have been thinking maybe you would want to use Zoom Ria and take a clip of that and use it. And I believe that Zoom Ria choir had representation from just about every region. But you already can see that on our website. So maybe that's old hat. Maybe you want to create your own. I wouldn't try to translate every detail of what you're doing into Zoom. I think, sky's the limit. And maybe by the time you have it, you can have a small exec in person and do the rest of it virtually. I mean, don't write anything off. So, I won't go further. It's funny. I didn't realize I could talk about that much. I haven't thought about it for a while. 10 minutes.
So I had thought we could ask each person questions, but given Renee's timing,
yeah, go ahead.
I think Renee should speak, and then maybe we'll do questions afterwards.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Eileen.
All right. Thanks, Deb. So the one thing that Eileen alluded to was that you had to have details. We had every single program scripted out to the minute, because when you're doing something like this, you can't go over 5 minutes and make it up somewhere else. Everything has to be timed accordingly. Everybody that was a participant in some sort of a presentation practiced, right, Sandy? How many practices did you have? Yes, so you have to practice everything you're presenting on Zoom. And then you also have to give instructions to everybody. Let them know who's going to be doing the chat. Let them know who's going to be running the slides, because you do need more than one person to do each presentation. You should always have backup. Another thing that Eileen mentioned, because God forbid somebody's internet goes out. We've had that even on convention day, and you probably didn't even realize it. So, you have to have backups for everything. Have a schedule. Make sure you start that schedule and fill it in and share with everybody. If you're working with a production company, they're going to want everything scripted with the slides embedded into your script, so that they know when to change the slides or whatever, or whoever's doing the, if you have a volunteer that's doing that, they need to know when to change the slides. So make sure you have guidelines for the presenters, instructions for everybody. And then you also have to have instructions for the participants. Women's League sent out, I don't know if you remember, they sent out all the links for the day, because we had 6 lines. So people were using different lines for different things. And they told you exactly how to get in, how to get out, sent all the materials ahead of time that you would need. The program was sent out ahead of time. The schedule was sent out ahead of time, so that everybody could have it right in front of them. So a lot of prep goes into it before the day of that you don't really think of. But I think there was less involvement on the day of. As far as, you know, having to make changes and running from room to room and setting up, everything was already set. So that's basically what I have to say. Plan, 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 and practice, practice, practice.
Thank you.
And the program is still on the website, so you can review all that too.
Yeah.
I was looking today.
Perhaps for time sake, Marilyn, if you talk next, and then we can begin with the questions to both Renee and Marilyn, which are joint.
Sure, okay, sure. Here, Sandy, I'll try and keep in mind the time. So to add in some other things that Eileen and Debbie and Renee haven't maybe addressed yet, one thing you need to do is you need to think about what your typical conference schedule is, and you got to see what you're going to cut. Because realistically, you know, if you do a day, or some of you do 2 days of your spring conferences, I think there's even one that does for 3 days. And you have to really think about what it is that you can cut. Because as you know from convention, which, forgive me, I'm on Pacific time, was from 7:30, you know, in the morning until almost 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's a long time. That was convention. So you really need to think about how you want to set up your timing. And do you want to do it all in one day? Or do you want to do it spread out over a couple of days? You know your women, and you have to think about what you think is going to work best for them. So that's one thing. The other thing I'll mention is that the more you can pre-record some things, the easier your day will go, because that way you can stick to your timing easier, and you won't have to worry about glitches, particularly with installation, because this will be an installation year. You'll all be stepping down as region presidents. And you might want to think about whether you want to do a partial pre-recording of anything. We did do our installation live, which was one of the few events that we did do at convention that was totally live. But like Renee said, we had everything timed really pretty much down to the second in terms of how long things would take. The other thing I want to encourage you about, hasn't been mentioned yet, is visuals. You know, if you're going to have people do workshops, they need to have slides to go along with them. And you want to make sure that it's not just people who are actually just sitting and just talking at you all day long. So those are really important. Think about what materials you want to send out in advance for people to look at or to be familiar with. Renee mentioned, like, we had a list of, you know, for participants, but there may be other things too that you want to send out in advance. The one question that comes to my mind, I know I'm supposed to be talking, not asking questions, is that, you know, in terms of whether anybody would be able to use any of Women's League Zoom lines for their particular spring conferences. And if so, how that might work. So in case there's conferences that are on the same date. So I'm going to mention that was something I thought about. Debbie, you're shaking your head yes. You're muted, Deb.
We discussed that, and they are all available to them. And I know that we have 4 or 5 already on April 24th, and the group decided that they would try to spread their conferences and not any more on that day, because all of our Zoom lines are available to them.
Right. That was one thing too, and the last thing I'll say and then open up to questions is really, you can't practice enough for the participants and for everybody who is running the Zooms of the day. And I'll end there so that way you can ask some questions.
Right, and if I could just follow up, there are also very specific Zoom tips about how to place yourself and your backgrounds and everything else that we can share. I'll make sure the consultants all get that information so that you can use that.
Great, thank you. I know that there's a lot that the presidents and the chairs have been thinking about, and now even more. If you can either raise your hand in virtually or on virtually online or put it up. Let's open this up to questions. Let's begin with specific logistics questions since Renee is here for the beginning. And if others come up later, I know that Marilyn certainly will be able to answer them. But questions from the audience, from the participants. Jody.
Will you be able to share any potential templates from convention? You're sharing ideas, but if there's actual templates put in place and all we have to do is incorporate our specific information, so we're not starting from scratch?
We do have our outlines and templates, but you know, ours was a different type of program. It would be helpful to know what type of program you're having. Are you having a 1 day, a 2 day? Are you having multiple workshops? Are you, so that we can share that, but sure, we can send you that.
That'd be great. As of right now, we don't know. I think we're maybe one of the few that are still being optimistic to be in person due to our logistics and concerns of dropping out of conferences for future in person. But you know, anything, we haven't gone as far as if we're doing 1 day, 2 days, or we're the 3-dayers.
That's, which region is that?
Intercontinental.
Intercontinental, ICR.
Okay.
You know, one comment I might make to you, Jody, is like, so in 3 days, you pack a lot of different workshops in.
Yes.
And maybe what you might want to consider, like if you typically have a Sisterhood Presidents workshop, if you typically have a Torah Fund workshop, you may want to consider having those workshops done separately, not at the same time as your spring conference. Because that way, if you want to do a virtual conference and you're looking for what to cut, you could do those workshops separately for the Sisterhood Presidents in your region, for Torah Fund people in your region, and do them on a different day so that they're not really part of your spring conference. And that might help you in putting together a schedule.
Right. And that goes back.
Eileen wants to address.
Okay.
You're muted, Eileen.
You know, our plan this year was for convention was to pluck out all of the leadership part. And so the Sisterhood Presidents or whomever, the leadership, you guys wouldn't have to say, gee, I missed all the great workshops because I was tied in to the leadership ones. So one of the things we started with, and it's funny because it was before all of this COVID stuff, Carol Simon and Toby Mazer were the leadership chairs for under program, and they did some pre-convention workshops that were very well attended for Sisterhood Presidents. So it's that, you know, you could possibly, you know, like what Marilyn said, but Carrie, we were going to have all of leadership Sunday and Wednesday, and then in between Monday and Tuesday would be the programming. So you might want to divide it up that way, either a day separately. But I you know, because it's done this way, you know, you could have the pre-convention workshops building up to it, and it worked out with them. And I'm sure that they would be more than happy to give you some information on how they did that.
Carol and Toby.
Right.
Cathy Swerdlow, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just, you know, I'd be interested in hearing how you initially sat to figure out what to cut. You know, I mean, to me, that seems to be like the overwhelming issue. It's like, how did you distill what you wanted? Did you set new priorities for convention, or did you?
So I can tell you that happened early one Sunday morning with Eileen and I on the phone. I was awake all night and I thought about it all night long. What is it that we need? We know we need this, and this. And I called Eileen and we discussed it, and we put things in the right place and we discussed it. But you all know that there are certain things that are required in a conference. A service, a keynote address by a consultant,
Torah fund.
Torah fund, a sisterhood president's workshop. However, that might be something that you could do, as the group said, you know, the day before, a week before, 2 weeks before. So what you have to do is take that list of what's required. It's in the conference handbook. You should all have that. If you don't, we can get that for you sooner than later.
It's in the member docs. It's on the member docs page.
Thank you, Eileen. It's in the member docs, the conference handbook. And take that and figure out whether you want that on that day, or you want, as the group has said, ahead of time to do those leadership sessions. You might all remember that when we first came up with this, we said with convention, we said we were going to do the region president session and the sisterhood president session on Sunday, and the Torah Fund vice president session on Sunday, and all of the leadership. And then on Monday and Tuesday, all of the region presidents would be able to enjoy convention. And then Wednesday was going to be a board meeting. So if you weren't staying for the board meeting, you could go home. So take that premise, and as they've suggested, do your leadership sessions on another day. So when Jody, when you ask us for a template, you know, we did a social action project.
Right.
If that's something you're interested in, we can share that template with you.
That'd be great.
Figure out what it is that you want to do that day. And I do think the best suggestion is what they've already said to you, to remove the leadership and do it beforehand or after. Almost as if they're your summer workshops where you're doing those, and just do them at a different time. So it's spontaneous. It happened on a Sunday morning. I was awake all night. I said, Eileen, let's figure this out. And we did.
Because really, when we were deciding whether or not to have convention, we had to, because we're required to have that meeting. We're required to have a business meeting, have an election. We had to have an election. So there were requirements. But, you know, I would think also, I mean, we did I have to say, a great job on that panel discussion, because we recorded it and we gave questions for them to have. And then we held Zoom meetings afterwards live where the questions could be asked. I'm not going to go into all that now. But let's say when you're having your meeting, you may all decide that you would love to have a certain kind of pre-recorded panel discussion. You can arrange it and then all use it. You know, all use the same one. And, you know, why reinvent the wheel? You can do some kind of a fabulous program and then and share it, especially if it's recorded. They are easy. I mean, you don't want to record the whole conference chair, but
and by pre-recording some things, it really does take the pressure out of the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was much more I can't say it was much more relaxing. None of that day was relaxing, but it was a little bit easier knowing that certain things were pre-recorded and that they would run on time. And
are you thinking of your jewels on the crown?
Yeah, we had fun, didn't we, doing that pre-recorded jewels on the crown? Yeah.
You know, and one other thing when we were talking about the pre-recording, but on some of the live things like installation, you know, where you have to have a script all written out for these types of programs. And then you need to make sure that you have somebody who isn't that person who's supposed to be presenting, who has a copy of that script that they could step in if that person has internet issues, so that you can pick up right where you are and go, you know, make a smooth transition so you can continue whatever that program is that you're working on.
Here's something else. Have fun. Leave some time for fun. You know, that's one thing. We probably should have put in some more chats, maybe. No, you know what I mean? We could have. We really booked ourselves. But, you know, you could have a break. And there was one break with Margie and Debbi. But leave some time for people to just sit around in that room and we were amazed. People said they stayed the whole day. You know, we didn't expect that, really.
And I'm sorry, I just want to say one thing, that, you know, after convention, many of you, almost all of your regions, had a region party as if you were in your region suite. And that might be something that you also want to do for your conference, because I know that that's a big part of the conferences that go more than one day, for you to, you know, I know Southern Region does a big bang up party because I've been there. And that might be something you want to do after. And I know Renee wanted to say, sorry, Renee.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to say, make sure you do allow for breaks, because we did schedule breaks. We didn't go minute to minute to minute. People had the option of staying and doing those chats if they wanted to, but we had half-hour breaks because people want to get something to eat, they need to have a bio break, or just need to get up and stretch. So make sure that's in there too.
Okay. Cathy, we'll go to the other Cathy who had her hand up. So, and I see you also, Laura, you'll follow Cathy.
Yeah, I had just a follow-up to what Jody asked, and that is in some of the logistics and template type things, it would be good to know how many actually are good to fit in those breakout rooms. How many, what is a manageable number for those if you're doing that? Because, and the system in which some of us have used for smaller things, but if we have a larger conference, how do we manage those breakout rooms and getting people to the right places?
It's a Renee question.
Yeah, that's a Renee question.
I knew that.
I figured. I wanted to get it in before she left.
Yeah, thanks, Cathy. So we discussed with the tech team that about 20 people is a good number in a breakout room, no more than that. And it depends on what you're doing in there. If it's a chat, you might want a few less. If you're actually having a workshop, that's about a good number. At 25 max, because you can see them all on one screen.
Right.
So, and you have two options for that. You can just let the program put everybody into the breakout rooms if it's something where it's not specific to a topic and you don't really care who is with whom, or you can assign people ahead of time. You would have to talk to Razel about that if you're using our Zoom line, the Women's League Zoom line, or whoever owns that Zoom line, and set it up ahead of time. Or at the day of, you can manually put people into rooms. You can choose how many rooms you want and then click on the names. You know, it'll pop up, and you click on the names, who's in room 1, who's in room 2, who's in room 3. I will tell you though, that takes a bit of time to do that, depending on how many people are on the conference line, because they go out 1 or 2 at a time. And so if you have 100 people, that's a lot of people to go out and then come back in. So just put that into your timing if you're doing that.
Renee, let me ask you that. I have a question for Renee. If we were doing this now, and Marilyn too, if we were doing this now, would you still feel we needed a production company? Or do you think we could do it alone? Just us?
I think for what we did, because we had so many pre-recordings and the videos that were put together, that we would need a production company, but we had professional videos done.
Yeah, I so agree with you. Yeah.
No,
I just wondered, I really believe that. Because I want to say to them, don't try to do this at home.
Right.
I really think, because Debbi was up those nights, there were nights that I would wake up in a panic, and I'd say, I said, no, I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. How am I ever going to do this? Wait, all convention, is going to be run in my bedroom upstairs? I don't think that's going to work. We need to go to Women of Reform Judaism. It was like step by step. We knew, okay, we need to speak to them. We almost hired them to work with us. Then we said, no, we really need a production company. But we took baby steps till we reached that.
Right.
And boy, am I glad we did. We could not have. I think we handled it without a glitch, just about. And people said, and if there is a glitch, so be it. Yes. It happens. On TV now, I watch Savannah. I'm sorry, is there, what happened to his internet? Oh, well, I guess he's not there. It happens.
I wanted to say that now we see these things and, it's dime a dozen, everybody does it. But when we were doing this in April and May, it was brand new. No one really was running conferences by Zoom, a whole conference. That's why when Eileen said we all of us got on to Women of Reformed Judaism, and we got off and we were like, how are we going to do this? But it was baby steps, one day, one thing, everything grew onto each other. And I think, you know, my advice to you would be, don't laugh at me, but to start now, because every day a change, they're all going, yes. We did not have a lot of time, and we were awake at night working on this 24 hours a day because we had, you know, 6 weeks. So I would start now. I would put a schedule together. I would talk about who you want to do what. I would talk about what sessions you're going to do ahead of time. We can help you with the logistics. You know, Razel can help you with breaking up. You tell her between 1 and 2 you want to do breakout rooms, and here are the people in each room. We can help you do those things. But you really need to start now to think about how, you know, a theme and how you want to go about it and what you want to include. We can help you with sending you a template for a social justice plan. And those are the things we can help you with. But you have to really sit down and decide what it is you want your conference to be. And if it's going to be a 2-day, just remember that it's going to cost you more money and it's going to be more work. So you might consider all the things that you can do ahead of time and keep your conference to 1 day. We had an option of doing 2 days, and we chose to do 1 day because we knew how much work it was to even do that 1 day. And I do want to say that it's not all perfect. And there are things that happen. None of you would probably know, but at installation, right before I was about to be installed, I lost my internet and I got cut off. And it was the most frightening thing that ever happened. And Scott from Flow Video got me back on. And I was talking to him on my cell phone, and Eileen was wondering why I'm talking on my cell phone during installation. It was because I had no internet. So things happen. And if they do, you just go with it, because no one expects you to be professional. No one expected our convention to be as professional as it was. It was
including us.
Including us, right. But it's harrowing and it's nerve-wracking. And so think about what you can do ahead of time to prepare. That's my suggestion.
You know, I just want to add too, we did have one thing going for us, even with all the glitches, that no one knew what to expect from us with a virtual convention. So everyone's expectations came in very low, you know, and so generally we way exceeded those expectations. I think that that's something I want all of you to keep in mind, because, you know, as regions, you've never done a virtual convention. So no, they're not going to know so much what to expect from you either. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself thinking, oh my God, it's got to be, you know, this, and this. It doesn't have to. You know.
Laurie?
Being that so many of us have planned spring conferences before, actually my first job in Women's League was when Debbi asked me to be co-chair of planning spring conference, I don't know how many years ago.
A lot. And look where you are now.
But the point is that this one fills me with fear. I don't feel confident about this at all. I could plan a spring conference with my eyes closed if we were meeting in person and not miss a night's sleep. This one has me worried. I have a wonderful hard worker in Susie Markowitz, and we actually already discussed a very interesting possibility for a panel discussion, but I'm not sure where to start, how to start, and how to do this efficiently. And that's a little intimidating, because at this point, I'm sure all of us are very comfortable planning programs, planning agendas, figuring out schedules, but this is something different. And I don't think all of us have all of our questions tonight. I know I don't have all my questions tonight, and we may need to meet periodically to discuss problems that we're having, or just how to approach something. Because quite frankly, I think all of us are a little overwhelmed with trying to plan something. All of us have done Zoom events by now, but this is different. This is more important. This is installation, and this is longer. So I think all the reassurances are wonderful, but we're still all kind of nervous about this one.
Right.
Okay, I'm going to be leaving in a minute. Debbie, if I could just address that. You know, Lori, you have us that are on the call today, plus we have our consultants. And once we know what you're doing for your conference, we can assign somebody that has some experience that can walk you through all this and help you with all of this. So it is a little scary, but you know what? We just plunged right in and we did it. And I'm sure you can too, so.
And we're still friends afterwards.
Yes. Okay, please feel free to email me anytime, rravitch@wlcj.org. And I look forward to all your requests. And thank you, but I've got to go pick up my
Renee, before you leave, I just want to clarify about the conference consultants and how that happens and the process for that.
Yes.
Can you do that before you leave right now?
Yes, I just need to know when your conference is, how many days you're planning to have it. If you're not quite sure yet, that's fine. Let me know the start date at least. And then if you're in person or virtual, and then we will match up somebody to your region based on that information that you send to me. So, and I know that some people were talking about maybe doing some things together. I would need to know that too, so that I can make sure it's one person for the two, or, you know, have somebody coordinating together.
Okay, so please be in touch with Renee Ravitch when you know that information.
Yes,
okay?
As soon as possible, again, because we have to start now. All
right.
They have to book their reservations.
Before you leave,
no, you don't.
Renee?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. What I was going to say is that if there's a number of regions that want to do like Sister President's Workshop separately or Tour Fund Workshop separately, that would be probably also good for you to know in making those assignments, because it may, you know, vary on how you're going to send, you know, do that and send people out.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Marilyn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you so much for
Lori.
Thank you.
I want to say something to Lori. I want to address that. Lori, you know what? Yes, you could probably just do your conference in your sleep, but we're not letting you go that fast. Where'd she go? She moved. You know what? Sky's the limit, and it's not going to be boring. It's not going to be the same old, same old. This is your chance to go out in a blaze of glory. I mean, it really is. I don't think I've ever felt as proud of anything that we had done at that convention. I just, you know, and really thank you for giving us this opportunity to relive it for a few minutes. Because really, after July 13th, I didn't even want to think. That was it. I was done.
Yeah, me too.
yeah, right. Well, she started all over again, but really, it is a challenge, but it's so exciting because you're making history for Mid-Atlantic region. And you'll be terrific. All of you will be.
And we're here to help you. You know, I don't want you to think that this is something you have to do by yourself. We're here. You can pick up the phone. You can email any of us, and we'll help you do it. We'll help you get through it.
Yeah, and I see some other hands up, but I want to say before that point, especially to the president, this topic will certainly be on monthly. And I think that you know by now that if there's a special need for extra time, special time, whatever is needed, we will make sure that we arrange it. These women have come tonight and we're so, not gracious isn't a good enough word, because they were happy and already volunteering. Let them know that we can help whatever they need. And I'm sure once you have your consultant, that expands your expertise and the brain power, and it's wonderful. Carol Madvig, I saw your hand so patiently.
Thank you. I know that convention is huge. It's, countrywide, dealing it on a smaller scale as far as a conference goes, when you're only dealing with one region, do you still think you need a production company?
No, I had said, try to find someone within your region. You know, look in your synagogues, who arranges, who just did your high holiday services? Is there someone with a young adult son or daughter that does this just because?
No, I did hear you say that. But
Yeah, and you don't necessarily need a production company if you have someone that's capable. If you can't find that, that's when you go look for a production company. If you have people in your region that are capable of doing it, all the more power to you. Let them do it. Let them arrange it. Let them work on it. Let them figure it out. Let them start by pre-recording some of the sessions and try to put it together. That's why I'm suggesting that you start now, Carol, so that you have time to think about those things and reach out. Put a help wanted ad in your Shabbat newsletter, asking for production help, asking someone who's very competent with Zoom, asking someone who can record, and put things together.
You know, definitely be calling Marilyn and Renee.
But piggybacking on that,
they're right here. They're right here.
I know they are. Everyone is talking now about what happened at their synagogue's high holidays and what they were doing, and it seems to be the topic of conversation. And there were so many different models. Ask who they used,
right?
Who did what part. Many congregants who may be talking to you have no idea what was pre-recorded, but I haven't talked to many places that didn't do some pre-recording. You know, we're not at ground zero anymore, and we know some of these little tricks that the production company taught. And we're also saying numbers. We have not had the numbers at a convention that we had this year in many, many, many moons. People came out there. One of the things that we said to the finance committee when we went and asked for the allocation money to be used is, hopefully we're going to be able to get sisterhood members who've had nothing to do with Women's League, the region, and the numbers can be increased and the camaraderie, and you also have that talent pool. So, you know, there's so much. Tonight is truly just the start. Joan, I know that you had a question. You still have it now? Are there other questions at this time?
Anise has her hand up.
Anise, I had to go back there. I only have 9 at a time. Anise?
I just was curious to know if you had any wisdom you'd like to share about the merits of breaking up over 2 days, maybe in 3-hour clips instead of one long day, as a possibility, regardless of whether or not a region has done a 2-day or a 3-day convention. Just the how to manage time and how to block out time as a half day versus a full day.
I think that's a discussion you have to have within your region, to be honest. Because we had discussions, you know, I have a program committee of 10, and we went through so many types of templates. We were going to have, we started in the morning with the service, and we thought, okay, so do we greet people twice? Do we open convention in the morning, and then do we open it again before the business meeting? And do we have different people? You know, you really need to, I think, figure out what your women want, and I don't think there's one answer. I think it's something that, and this is just my opinion, I think once you start, you know, this is what this is my mantra. Bear with me, this is ridiculous. It sounds so stupid, and it probably is. When my daughter was about 2 or 3, she was probably 10, but I don't think, she started to count. I have a tape of her. She's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10. And I go, good, Jewel. And the point that I'm going to make is, when you start counting from 1 to 10, you may not have all those numbers, but you got to start. You're not going to be able to go now from 1 to 10. You're just going to be able to start. And because 1 will lead to 2, and maybe 2 will lead to number 4, and then you go back. I just think, I do this with my work, my professional job as well. You just gotta start, and it'll come. It really will. You'll find things that you can do that you couldn't before. Like, you know, you'll get more numbers. You can decide, you know, when I think of a production company, I'm thinking maybe a couple regions could share the cost of a production company. I don't know, you know, maybe somebody could give you some tips and, you know, have some sessions on what your background should be and all that. But there's, you know, there's some things that you just will figure out yourselves. You're all so creative, and you're all, you know, you're region presidents, and you've had 3 years of experience, so, or 2.5.
So I just
know what your women want.
I wanted to take a minute and also answer that question, Anise. And I think, as Eileen said, it depends on your region and the demographics of your region. In some regions, if they have a younger demographic population that might be working, they might not be able to take 2 different days. It might be better for them to just take 1 day to go to conference. In some regions, if you have an older population, they may not want to sit in front of the computer for 6 hours, and it may be better to break it up to 2-3 hour days. So you have to look, as Eileen said, to your demographics. You have to talk to your people, see what you want to do, and see what you want to accomplish on each day. And, you know, and then you can decide how you want to manage your convention, your conference.
Yeah. Embrace it. Just embrace it. It's thrilling, because you're going to get some of these older women like me who maybe wouldn't have gotten to convention. We had people there that hadn't been at convention in years.
Or had never been.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I always wanted to go, but I couldn't afford it, or I couldn't take the time, and I couldn't travel, and they got to convention. This is the first time they got to convention. And you may find that you will have people, this is the first time they've ever attended a spring conference.
And part of that, like Debbie has just mentioned, has to do with pricing. And that's a big thing that all of you are going to have to think about going forward with. If you're going to do a virtual convention, are you going to charge for it? Or, you know, you're certainly not going to charge what you would normally have charged if you decide to charge. You know, we decided not to charge at the last minute based upon everything that we had going on. But, you know, do you want to have any kind of a cost? Because we got, as Debbie said, so many people who said, I couldn't afford to come to convention because this airfare, typically airfare coming from PSW to any Women's League convention could cost $1,500 round trip. And that's not even the, you know, convention price. So for a lot of people, you know, wow, this was really wonderful. They could come and they didn't have to, you know, pay anything to attend. So instead of a typical 450 to 500 convention, we had over 1,400 women who signed up to come to convention. So that's something too that when you're planning, you're going to need to think about, you know, also. There's in the chat. Well, yeah, it's true, Cathy, that certainly you could charge a small fee. I'm not saying it's not to charge. You know, we were in this very unusual position at the last moment, and we had already done all of our convention pricing and figuring out the 15 million different possibilities of how, you know, someone might want to sign up. But yeah, I'm not saying not to charge at all, but certainly, yes, you could charge a small fee to help towards the production. Yeah. Also too, that since it's an installation year, many regions do a tribute book, and we did do a tribute book for convention, which you all know, and we made an amazing amount of money on our tribute book, and because people were generous, they didn't have to pay. So, you know, something to think about.
Yeah, $18 a person, that's certainly doable.
Right.
Someone has.
And when you did convention, it was early enough on that women hadn't been paying toward these things, and we have had our regions and Women's League doing some nominal fee, $18 type events, and so that it wouldn't be that, you know, that, well, everything else on Zoom is free. Is it really true anymore?
No.
I am having problems with freezing and going in and out with my computer. So if there is someone whose hand is up, I have about 7 squares who are frozen right now, which I did some things is a lot better when all of you had just blank spaces. So is there someone with a question? Please just jump right in. Jody, I do see you right now.
So my question is, with your feedback, was it determined that having like an 8 to 10 hour conference or convention, was that too long? Did people give you any negative feedback? So that
actually what we heard was that it was the perfect length of time because we did build in breaks. And what I heard before the conference, before the convention, was people would say to me, you don't really think I'm going to sit on that computer all day long, do you? And I mean, I had no answer. And I said, well, you know, you can come in and out. You can do whatever you want to do. And then those same people afterwards said to me, I couldn't leave. I just sat all day. I just couldn't leave. I couldn't leave. We built in a lot of breaks. We built in enough time so that you could go to the bathroom in between. You could move your laundry from the washer to the dryer. You could come back. I had enough time to change my clothes 3 times during the day. There was enough time.
Priorities.
But if you didn't want to leave for a break to go to the bathroom or get something to eat, you could stay on a chat. You had the options to either stay or leave. And so people felt very comfortable and it was relaxed. And they didn't feel that they were tied to a computer. We actually started at 10 with to fill and wrap, and 10:30 was the service. And then we were done, I think, by 6. And we had breaks built in. And the longest break was the one right before the installation and the concert. So that was the time that if people really wanted to get dinner or something to eat, they could do that. But we heard from people in the evaluations and also personally who said, I never felt that the day just went by. It sped by. So again, you have to decide in your region what your women want and what they're capable of. If it's great and creative, they'll stay all day, as long as you give them breaks.
But Anise said something which I thought earlier at a convention, in fact, and certain things, and I thought, geez, why didn't we think of that? And so tonight I have is with my name, Eileen Rubin, Mid-Atlantic Region, and Anise, I think you were the first one that suggested doing that everybody should put their region. And we never had time to think of some of the spirited things that could be done, like how people usually come to convention and they're wearing a hat or a kippah. So now people really use their Zoom boxes for their personality. So you have that. You could do an exercise in the middle of everything. You could have a hat. You could have everyone with their name and their sisterhood. We couldn't figure out how to divide up so much by regions so they could have just some of the details we really ran out of time, but that's what you have time for. And the other thing people sometimes do, and this would only work, although I don't know, maybe not for far-flung regions. Now people are doing things like my synagogue is having a dinner for the rabbi. And so the dinner is going to be a pickup that you pick up at the synagogue. You signed up for it, and at a certain time you pick it up, and then everyone will have their dinner during the tribute. The men's club is having their schnapps in the sukkah. So some people will go to the sukkah and they'll have their samplers, but if you're not, they're going to distribute them in the afternoon for anyone who doesn't want to come to the synagogue. So they will also be tasting their schnapps while the others are there. They'll be virtual and they'll be in the synagogue itself. So there really is a lot more. Don't be limited by what we did, because there's just so much more now that you can do, and some creative and fun stuff. So
thanks, Eileen. Joan?
I was just going to comment on that. I had not planned during convention to stay on all day, and I was just glued. I couldn't leave. During the breaks, when I really needed to leave and go, for a bio break, I tore myself away, but I was just glued all day. I could not tear myself away.
Joan, I was hiding that it wasn't you that said it to me, but it's okay. You admitted it.
It was me. I couldn't leave. I couldn't tear myself away. And in the very first chat room of the day, I met a woman from Syracuse, where I'm from, who, it was one of those, Jewish geography games that we played, who introduced me to a cousin of mine who I had never met before. So it was one of those wonderful things that happens. And he was, my grandfather was one of 8 children. So he's a second or third cousin of mine that I had never met, and now we're in touch, and he put me on his ancestry tree, and
Nice.
so it was a wonderful day for me. But I was one of those people that couldn't tear myself away all day.
Do you go to Psalms, don't you? Aren't you in Psalms every day?
Yes.
Yeah. See, I think that's also created, I mean, I know it's created a community of people like that. I think it made a difference for some people as well.
But, I was one of those who I just, only tore myself away when I absolutely had to. So.
And the other thing too I'll mention is you really want to get the word out once you have some plans in place. Start sharing it with everybody in your region, what it is you have in mind, what you're going to be doing. Try and keep the excitement and the interest in it, always building by Eileen would announce like who our new speakers were going to be, and we put out like a picture and a bio and that type of thing. And so build the interest in it as you go along, because you may not end up having the typical program that you have, and so that you can do it in different ways.
Great. Are there any other questions while everyone is still here?
Yeah, you have a meeting, so we'll go.
Susie, I see your hand.
Yeah, the only thing I wanted to say is my big concern in doing this. First of all, I am a little more frightened than I was before I started tonight, because I don't think I actually conceptualized what I said that I would do. Is that thinking outside of the box is going to be difficult for some people, because they're used to a certain, what I call pageantry, that we can't do anymore. You're not together, you can't, give the accolades. And I remember it was very heartwarming to me when Debbi was installed and her husband was there. And it was just a beautiful thing. So first of all, can we use her husband if we need to?
Bob
did a wonderful job.
He rents out.
But I think that was wonderful, because you improvised and the ladies were not around you, but someone that certainly is very close to you. So I think that was great, and that's what occurred to me that night, was just how smoothly it went, because I was feeling it was horrible that you were not going to be able to be with your sisters and have everybody with you, but it was beautiful. It really was.
So let me tell you how smoothly that went. 20 minutes before it happened, Rabbi Artson called my house. I called my cell phone and said, is Bob available? I need him to hold your Bible. I said, yes, but he has to change. He's wearing shorts and a t-shirt. So, he changed, and I found my sisterhood Bible that my sister had gave me when I was not deinstalled. What's the word? When I was not, thank you. I'm so tired tonight. Then when I was discharged, and it says inside, Temple Sinai Sisterhood given to Debbie Goldich on her service as sisterhood president. So I use that Bible, but it all happens like instantly. And that's my point of tonight. And Eileen said it, and Marilyn said it, and Renee said it. Let it flow, let it happen. It's organic. It happens as it's happening. You start preparing, you go from 1 to 2 to 4 to 6. And that day, it might not be the way you planned it, but it'll be wonderful. Just let it flow.
And you have one advantage that we didn't have, because, you each have 12 other people who are working on the same thing, and you can share ideas as well as sharing programs. And so, someone's going to work out how to put together one piece of it. And then when you have your region presidents meetings, you'll share that, and everybody will be, oh yeah, now I know how to do that. And so that's a wonderful advantage that you have all these other people who work together with.
Fantastic. Well, unless there's another question for now, we'll say that the first round has charged everyone up. Think about it. Certainly within the region, the talking within the president's group, even between meetings, we always have online, and we'll call for, my number, Debbie's number, and everyone who is on this call. And now we can really start conceptualizing and getting this going. I
have one more thing. I have one
Sure.
more thing to say. Here's another advantage you have. You can go get your hair done. We couldn't at that point.
Oh, I'm still not doing that.
It's true.
It was
If I could get my hair done, I wouldn't look like this.
No.
Yes. Okay. I want to thank our experts for tonight. Eileen and Marilyn. Of course, Debbie was one of our experts, but she's going to be staying. I also want to thank our new members of the group. We're all in this together. I thank all of the region representatives. I know some of you do not want to be called chairs, but the region representatives. Start thinking about who else you need on the team, because it will truly take a diverse team of a lot of talents. I thank you all for participating. Once this video is available, I will be in touch and have it, the connection to all the presidents who will share it with you. And again, thank you so much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
I see a question, do we have a schedule of future meetings? At this point, we don't. One of the things that we'll talk about at the president's meeting is next steps, and that may begin to lead to such action. I'm not sure where we are with that yet, but certainly your president will keep you in the loop of everything that is going on, and please, please reach out to us with any questions, comments, and ideas. Good night, everyone.